My name is Marty Huggins. I'm running for Congress.
Huh? Does this mean we got a campaign?
Incumbent Congressman Cam Brady makes a misstep that threatens his reelection.
It was the phone call.
So two corrupt CEOs wishing to control their district select the bumbling Martin to run against Cam.
We've got some babies to kiss.
But the politics turn dirty for both men in The Campaign.
Hi, I'm Senator Greg Karber.
Hi, and I'm Mayor of Bakersfield, Teresa Lowe.
Hi, and I'm Vice Undersecretary Aaron Fink, and we're here today to discuss the new Jay Roach comedy, The Campaign, starring Will Ferrell and Zach Galifianakis. We've all just seen it. Greg, give me the rundown.
Well, the movie was conceived by Will Ferrell and Zach Galifianakis, who wanted to do a movie with these two characters that they had developed.
Zach Galifianakis has actually used a character very similar to this in some of his earlier comedy. His name is Seth Galifianakis, and he's his younger brother, and I saw it on a DVD that he released a few years ago.
Zach Galifianakis is great because at first he seems like this weirdo oddball, but the more time you spend with him, the more you love him. The script is very much set up around giving these two characters, Will Ferrell's and Zach Galifianakis, chances to compete and combat each other, and I think it does a great job on that.
And this movie focused less on plot. From the characters, we got most of the jokes. And what was interesting about this movie, too, is that it reversed the typical Hollywood trope, which was usually skewing towards a liberal perspective. This was very much a nonpartisan movie the message was against the rich.
I don't know if I agree with that, though. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things you could say about this. I mean, a lot of people thought that Cam Brady was a Republican, but I was under the impression that he was a Democrat, and that Marty Huggins, played by Zach Galifianakis, was the Republican. I mean, I really like seeing Will Ferrell play a Democrat. He's usually, as a presidential candidate or whatever, he's always Republican, and that's usually where we find the majority of his comedy. But I think that this time it was more about the political process.
You're such a little turd.
But even though they were biased, they still made fun of everybody.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they made fun of more of the Republicans or the Democrats or whatever. No. Everyone had pot shots at everybody else, and I laughed just as much at, Will Ferrell as I did at Zach Galifianakis.
Oh, it definitely does not cast the Democrats as any kind of heroes.
By the third act, it sort of loses steam.
Yeah, and the problem by the third act is that you stopped caring who won the election. I think we can all agree that the writing is the weakest part of this movie, but the acting and the directing were great.
Awesome, I agree. Will Ferrell as candidate Congressman Cam Brady. He's running for his fifth re-election, I think?
Unopposed at the beginning
Yes,
of the film.
That's right. He's great. He's a perfect combination of John Edwards, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush in my mind. And he's a little tired. I can tell that he doesn't have as much energy as Anchorman in Old School, so I get it.
I think that really works for this movie, though, because his character, Cam Brady, is sort of an over-the-hill politician, and he's paired against Zach Galifianakis, who's this young up-and-comer, which is exactly what he is in real life.
Hate to break it to you, friend, but your balloon's getting ready to pop, and that balloon's full of your own butt toots.
And then we have Zach Galifianakis playing candidate Marty Huggins. He is a new Republican candidate. His father is involved in the political process somehow, and that's how he gets involved. It feels lived in. His character and his performance is something that he's had in his tool belt for a long time. He's gotten really good at that guy.
Yeah, and it's very clear that the movie was designed and executed around pairing these two comic personas against each other.
Right, and when they play off each other, that's really strong, but Zach Galifianakis by himself isn't as strong of a comedic performer. Like, he's more of the type of guy who, in an ensemble, he steals the show, but by himself, I don't think he's as strong.
You're wrong. I mean, oh God, all those scenes with him and his wife and his kids, all the emotional stuff at first doesn't really resonate because you think that he's weird, but halfway through the movie, when you start to understand he's such a loving and caring person, that, all that stuff, it plays so well for me.
The only weaknesses are the two characters of the Mach brothers, who are played by Dan Aykroyd and John Lithgow.
They're just not very funny.
John Lithgow is one of my favorite comedic actors.
Absolutely. He was Emilio Lizardo in Buckaroo Banzai, one of the best 80s movies ever.
But it was disappointing what they did with those two characters because I would have liked to see them be funny. I mean, the minute I saw Dan Aykroyd, I thought, oh my gosh, Dan Aykroyd's back!
Well, let's talk about director Jay Roach, who directed the Austin Powers films, Meet the Fockers and Meet the Parents.
Game Change.
And also the political movies
Right.
like Game Change and Recount. So he's uniquely, in my mind, qualified to direct this film.
He has so much range. I mean, someone who can do a comedy like Austin Powers, but then do such a serious drama like Game Change. He really brought those two aspects of his directing tool belt to this movie.
Yeah, no, definitely.
The script of this movie wasn't perfect, but it was still funny. I give it a see it.
I'll campaign for this movie. See it.
This is a great film starring two of the funniest people alive. Definite see it.
All right, cheers. The election results are in.
Let me give you some trash talk, okay?